The butterfly effect. It is the phenomenon by which seemingly small events can lead to a large-scale and unpredictable variation of the future. The NBA has carved out a rich history of narratives that's made the league what it is today. Now think about one of those narratives changing. What effect would that change have made to alter the course of the league we've come to know and love? With that said, here are the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. There are a ton of superstars' careers that have been debilitated by injuries. Guys such as Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, Brandon Roy, and Tracy McGrady come to mind. But arguably the greatest one of them all is Derrick Rose. At the age of 22, Rose was on top of the world. He won the 2011 MVP and to this day is still the youngest player in NBA history to bag the Maurice Podoloff trophy. Rose was destined to be an all-time great, until that day of April 28, 2012 changed his career forever.
Rose came down bad on his left foot. See him holding onto his knee and down.
Rose was simply never the same after that fateful day. He never got back that superstar trajectory that he was on during his MVP campaign. He suffered multiple knee injuries the next couple of seasons, and while he's still an effective role player today, it's sad that we never got to see Rose in his absolute prime. Now let's think of the possibilities if D Rose never suffered that torn ACL. The Bulls could have already won their first NBA championship since the Michael Jordan era. Would a more experienced Rose also have prevented the Miami Heat from winning the 2012 NBA title? What would that have done to the Miami Big Three of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh if they didn't win a championship after failing the season before? What would that have done to LeBron's legacy if Rose prevented him from winning 2 titles in Miami? Let's peep down the line, maybe into 2015. Is there an alternate universe where the Bulls and Warriors met in the finals, pitting Rose and an emerging Steph Curry in what could have been an insane superstar matchup between 2 point guards with polarizing playing styles? Just imagine. Now with Rose and the other guys mentioned, their careers were altered because of career-changing injuries. But with Len Bias, what if he simply lived? For those who aren't familiar with Len Bias, many saw him as a potential rival to Michael Jordan. Yes, that's how good he was. Bias was a built and multi-skilled 6'8" forward with quickness, length, and strength. He had a stellar 4-year college career at the University of Maryland, where he was named a consensus first-team All-American in 1986 and was the 1985 and 1986 ACC Player of the Year. 9 days after winning the 1986 NBA title, the Boston Celtics selected Bias second overall in the NBA draft. The Celtics just came off a championship led by Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, and suddenly welcomed a 22-year-old phenom that would make them a dynasty for years to come. Unfortunately, that all lasted 2 days. On June 19th, Bias was with his friends in his campus dorm where they took cocaine. He later suffered a seizure and collapsed. In the wee hours of that morning, the promising stud died due to a cocaine overdose. This is certainly a tragic story that left the basketball world in the 80s in utter shock. It also led to one of the greatest what-ifs in NBA history. Just imagine what the Celtics would have become if Bias did not tragically die. Would they have terrorized the rest of the 80s? Would the Lakers win back-to-back championships in 87 and 88? Would the bad boy Pistons even get past them? And if people back in the day compared him to Michael Jordan, what would he have done to MJ's legacy? Maybe Jordan doesn't go to 6 NBA finals. What if Bias became the roadblock to the Bulls superstar's path to a championship? How does that change the way we perceive his airness? Now that we're talking about the GOAT, what if Michael Jordan actually never retired? Or did he? Conspiracy theorists say Jordan was secretly suspended by the NBA due to his gambling issues, but that's a discussion for another day. Regardless, the Bulls superstar did walk away from the game during the pinnacle of his career just 4 months after winning his 3rd straight NBA championship. The news sent shockwaves all over the world, and his absence opened the door for other teams, well, actually just the Houston Rockets, to win 2 titles in '94 and '95. Nonetheless, it's certainly worth pondering what could have happened if Jordan just continued hooping instead of pursuing baseball and other ventures. Would the Bulls have won 8 straight titles? If that happened, will Jordan's status as the greatest of all time be untouchable? Will there never be any GOAT debates like what we're seeing now with MJ and LeBron James? On the flip side, maybe Jordan is stopped in his tracks by those '94 and '95 Rockets in the NBA Finals. The Hakeem Olajuwon-led Rockets Rockets owned MJ's Bulls, going 5-1 against Chicago in the regular season from 1991 to 93. Jordan's immortality hinges on the fact that he never lost on the grandest stage. Would a speck in his NBA Finals record change MJ's immortal status? Would it be easier for LeBron to crack the GOAT debate if Jordan lost in the finals? Now, in connection to Jordan and the Bulls, what if Jerry Krause didn't actually break up the Bulls in 1999? We all saw what happened in The Last Dance. Jerry Krause pretty much put an end to the Bulls dynasty in the late 90s. Sure, they did go out on top and captured their second three-peat, but it's worth wondering just how long that dynasty would have gone if they just rode it out until the wheels fell off. Would Chicago have lost to the upstart Spurs, who won the 99 NBA championship? Perhaps the shortened lockout season would have benefited the old Bulls and won them an unprecedented four-peat? Would they have continued their dominance in the East and faced off against Shaq, Kobe, and the Lakers in 2000? That would have been a colossal NBA Finals matchup between what eventually became the next great NBA dynasty and the seemingly immovable dynasty that terrorized the previous decade. Also, 36-year-old Michael Jordan versus 21-year-old Kobe in the finals? Say less. Speaking of dynasties, what about the Oklahoma City Thunder in the early 2010s? It's hard to fathom that at one point, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden were all on the same team, three future MVPs, future Hall of Famers. As 22, 23-year-olds, they led OKC to the NBA Finals in 2012. They may have come up short and succumbed to LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh in 5 games, but this sight of them in the final moments of the 2012 Finals definitely looked like the birth of a budding dynasty that would dominate the NBA for many years. Unfortunately, that proved to be the last image of Durant, Westbrook, and Harden wearing the same Thunder jersey together. Those three were never able to run it back when OKC made the mistake of trading Harden just days before the start of the 2012-13 season due to disagreements on the Beard's contract extension. If Sam Presti just knew that he had 3 future MVPs on his hands, the Thunder would undoubtedly go on to win a championship. But the true what if is how the careers of Durant, Westbrook, and Harden would pan out if they stuck around together. Would Harden break into the superstar he eventually became in Houston? Would he be stuck in that sixth-man role he had in OKC? If the Thunder win multiple titles, would Kevin Durant ever think of leaving? Would they eventually implode with their superstar egos clashing? This move changed the direction the NBA was headed. Nonetheless, it eventually led us to Game 6 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals between the remaining 2 stars of the Thunder squad, KD and Russ, versus Steph Curry and the Warriors, the team that eventually took over the decade. The 2015-16 Warriors made history, setting an NBA record 73 wins in the regular season. However, in the Western Conference Finals, they were almost stopped in their tracks by Oklahoma City. The Thunder shocked the Warriors by going up 3-1 through the first 4 games before Golden State lived to fight another day with a win in Game 5. Nonetheless, this set the stage for the Thunder to spoil the Warriors' party by winning the series in 6 at OKC. However, Klay Thompson had other plans in mind. Game 6 saw the Thunder lead for the majority of the contest, but the Warriors mounted a furious late-game comeback in the 4th quarter led by Game 6 Klay. Thompson dropped 41 points and made 11 three-pointers to help the Warriors force a Game 7, which they eventually won at home. Golden State eventually blew their own 3-1 series lead to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals, and this eventually led to Kevin Durant joining the Warriors in the offseason, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now let's consider, what if Game 6 Klay didn't happen? What if the Warriors lost that game and OKC went to the finals? Had OKC won over Cleveland, KD would most certainly remain a Thunder. What would Golden State do in the offseason to bounce back from a disappointing postseason? Meanwhile, how would LeBron and the Cavs retool after losing 2 straight finals? If the Cavaliers won, would KD continue to run it back with the Thunder, considering they came much closer to winning a title? Would he have left Oklahoma City anyway, and if so, which team would he join? Would he still go to the Warriors as it happened in real life, considering he just beat them in the playoffs? So many possible scenarios that would have changed if not for that timeless Game 6 classic from Klay Thompson. Speaking of the Warriors, let's go with a present-day what-if that has become a hot topic on NBA Twitter this season: Steph Curry and LeBron James becoming teammates. James flooded the minds of Hoops fans with fantasy when he revealed that Curry is the guy he wants to play with in today's NBA. Unfortunately, the Warriors superstar immediately shut that down.
Well, we got his wish, so he's the captain. He's picked me the last 2 All-Star games, so I don't know if that suffices, but I'm good right now.
The two-time MVP did like the idea of teaming up with his longtime rival, considering LeBron's skill set and Curry's ability to shoot the ball. Nonetheless, he is still keeping his reality goggles on, knowing their respective situations right now. Still, it's something we can ponder about in our idle time and wonder about the possibility of LeBron and Steph being on the same team. But as it stands, as Curry said himself, we can all live in that fantasy world.